I used to think Sunday dinners were sacred, little pockets of warmth in an otherwise cold family dynamic. But that night, as I set the bottle of red wine on the Evans dining table, I realized I had once again mistaken tolerance for love. "So excited for the cruise next month," I said with a smile, pouring wine into everyone's glass. "I've been looking into that marine sanctuary in St. Thomas, supposed to be incredible." That's when Melissa laughed, sharp, amused, and condescending. "Oh, Charlotte, you actually thought you were coming?" My heart stopped. Everyone turned to look at me, but no one looked surprised. Dad chuckled, stabbing a chunk of roast beef with his fork. "This trip's for the real family, honey. You know, just the four of us." Real family. I froze, my hands still gripped the wine bottle as if anchoring me to a world that had just cracked beneath my feet. They'd let me plan the entire trip, used my work benefits, asked me about excursions, had me upgrade cabins, but being part of the vacation, that was never in the cards. "You used me," I said softly, almost to myself. Melissa scoffed. "We used your discount. You seriously thought you'd be lounging poolside with us? That's adorable." Even Derek, usually quiet, said nothing. My mom looked at her plate. But I didn't cry, not then. Instead, I smiled. A smile that said I've finally seen the truth. And deep inside, something shifted. I had spent my life begging for scraps of love and recognition. That night, I stopped begging. I started planning. To anyone who's ever been the forgotten child, the one who gives and gives only to be laughed at, drop a comment, share your story, and hit that subscribe button. You deserve better. We all do. Growing up, I thought being the responsible one would eventually earn me a place at the table, an actual place. Not just a seat they allowed me to occupy. But looking back, I was always the placeholder. The space filler. The one who picked up after the party, not the one invited to enjoy it. While Melissa bounced from one career crisis to another, Mom would drive hours to comfort her baby. When Derek failed his first semester at college, Dad called it a sabbatical year and booked a guy's trip to Yellowstone to reconnect. Meanwhile, I was working 2 jobs through college, living in a shared basement, eating ramen most nights. When I graduated with honors, no one came. Not even a card. Melissa got a backyard barbecue for passing a yoga instructor exam. Still, I tried. Every birthday I sent thoughtful gifts. Every family event I baked, cleaned, helped Mom organize everything. I showed up, even when it hurt. They used to call me the strong one. But strength without love is just survival. The most painful part. I didn't see it for what it was until that Sunday dinner, until Melissa's words, so casually cruel, cut deeper than anything anyone had ever said to me. "You thought you were coming." Of course I did. I had built the entire itinerary. Used my employee perks at the school district to get discounts. Upgraded their suit using my own reward points. I was part of every conversation about what to pack, what to wear, where to eat. They let me believe I belonged. Until the moment they no longer needed me. And then they laughed. Have you ever watched your family laugh at your pain? Have you ever sat at a table, surrounded by people who share your last name, and felt more invisible than a stranger? That night I drove home in silence. No music. No tears. Just a quiet realization settling over me like snow on asphalt. Cold, still, and final. I wasn't part of the family. I was the function. I was the planner. The helper. The one who gets the job done. But never, ever the one they choose. And I had let them do it. For years. But that night was the last. I took out my laptop and opened the cruise dashboard. Every reservation, every confirmation, every luxury upgrade, they were all in my name. Not Melissa's. Not Dad's, mine. The trip couldn't exist without me. And for the first time, I saw that as power, not pain. So I didn't cry. I started to think. And then I began to build something far more satisfying than a Caribbean vacation. A reckoning. Have you ever been the one who's too strong to need help? Tell me about it. Let's make sure we stop pretending strength equals silence. Leave a comment, share your truth, and don't forget to subscribe. This story is for us. People like me. We don't get thanked. We get asked for help. And we give it. Over and over. I should have known when Melissa asked me to just look into cruise options. Because I know how to get good deals. I should have known when Dad gave me his credit card for the deposit, but made no mention of my own cabin. I should have known when Mom never once asked about my vacation time, or what I'd be packing. But I didn't want to see it. Because seeing it meant facing the truth. I was never meant to be included. I was just the employee in the background, offering free labor, smiling politely, invisible until needed. Over the next few weeks, I organized the entire vacation. I secured their suite, upgraded their dining package, even got them priority boarding. I put hours of unpaid labor into perfecting a trip I thought I was part of. They let me believe I was going. Not because they respected me, but because it was easier to keep me compliant. Melissa would send snarky messages like, "You're so good at this, maybe you should be a travel agent," and laugh when I thanked her for trusting me with the planning. And I took it. Because people like me, forgotten daughters, quiet givers, we take it. We've learned that making a scene only gets us labeled as difficult. I played along. Right up until Sunday dinner. The laughter, the mocking tone, the way Dad leaned back and sipped wine like he'd just delivered the punchline of a sitcom. That was my wake-up call. After dinner, I went home and opened the cruise portal again. I stared at the glowing confirmation screen for a long time. My name was on everything. The hotel, the flights, the excursions. Every point of contact listed, Charlotte Evans. Every automated update came to my email, and something broke in me. All these years, I'd equated goodness with obedience. But that night, I realized obedience had gotten me nothing but heartache. So I stopped being good, and I started being fair. I created a backup email account and rerouted all confirmation emails there. I delayed the final payment by flagging it for verification, something I had the right to do as the primary account holder. I changed the dates slightly, just enough to throw off their itinerary. Shifted flight times, swapped excursion bookings, and edited the names on the cruise manifests so that Dad was no longer the primary traveler. Just a companion. It wasn't revenge, it was clarity. They thought they could take and laugh in my face. So I gave them exactly what they gave me: exclusion. In the meantime, I made my own plans. A week in a remote cabin in the Rockies, no Wi-Fi, no cell service. Just nature, quiet, and finally peace. I scheduled emails and texts in advance so they'd think I was off the grid. I even arranged for a neighbor to water my plants. It was surgical, precise, emotionless, but inside, I was raging. Not just at them, but at myself. For every birthday I spent waiting for a call that never came. For every Christmas gift I bought that went unacknowledged. For every time I told myself, this is just how they are. No more. Let me tell you something. People will treat you however you allow them to. And I had allowed it for too long. The morning they were supposed to fly out, I sat on the porch of my rented cabin, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise. Around 9:47 a.m., my phone lit up like a slot machine. Where's our confirmation? Why is our flight not in the system? Charlotte, call us. Now. And I sipped my coffee. They spiraled. Melissa sent voice notes laced with venom. Dad left a voicemail full of that cold rage he reserves for disappointments. Mom tried the guilt route. But me, I listened, calm, still. Then I powered off my phone and went for a hike. They could swim in the mess they made. To every woman who's been treated like background noise in her own family, hear me loud and clear: you are not invisible. You are not wrong for wanting respect. You are not crazy for expecting love to look like more than convenience. Tell me, have you ever been used by someone who should have protected you? Drop your story in the comments. Let's unlearn the silence together. Hit like, hit subscribe. But most importantly, hit back. Not with cruelty, but with boundaries. Because boundaries, my friend, are the real revolution. The Monday after Sunday dinner, I called in sick for the first time in 6 years. I didn't even lie. I just said, I'm not okay today. My principal understood. He always said teaching was emotional labor. What he didn't know was that I wasn't just emotionally drained. I was done. I spent that morning sitting cross-legged on my bedroom floor, laptop open, staring at the list of cruise bookings. My name on everything. My credentials used to create the reservations. The perks, the access, the upgrades, they all existed because of me. And yet somehow, I had been the only one not invited. That's when the shift happened. It was quiet, Not a scream, not a tantrum, just a resolve deep in my bones. No more. I started digging. Cruise terms, modification rules, travel insurance loopholes. I knew just enough from planning trips for my students' field projects to realize that everything was flexible until it wasn't. I found out that as the primary booking contact, I could delay final payment. I could change names. I could reroute confirmations. As long as no funds had fully cleared, I held the keys. So I took control. First, I created a secure folder and copied every booking document, just in case. Then, I routed all email notifications to a second address only I could access. I delayed the credit card payment using a verification request flag, something the system allowed if I suspected fraud or inaccuracies. Then came the harder part, shifting the dates. I moved the flight to 1 day later, not enough to look suspicious, but just enough to ruin their schedule. I swapped the name order on the cruise check, and Dad was now the second guest, which triggered ID mismatches at boarding. I even switched their shore excursions to ones already at capacity, knowing it would generate rejection notices the morning of. It was like building a clock designed to explode, slowly, methodically. And while I did all that, I booked myself a different kind of trip. A small, off-grid cabin in the Colorado Rockies. I'd found it online, a quiet rental with no Wi-Fi, no signal, just mountains and firewood and sky. It cost half of what my family would lose missing their cruise. Worth every penny. I scheduled email autoresponders that said I was on a much-needed digital detox. I left instructions with my neighbor to collect my mail. I packed a bag, prepped meals, and bought a new journal. And then, I waited. The night before their flight, I poured a glass of wine and sat by the window, watching the streetlights flicker. Part of me wondered if I was going too far. Would this make me like them? But that thought passed quickly. Because unlike them, I wasn't doing this out of malice. I was doing it out of self-respect. They had used me, mocked me, erased me from my own family, and still expected me to clean the dishes. They needed to understand that kindness isn't infinite, that even the quietest person has a breaking point. When I finally arrived at the cabin, it felt like exhaling for the first time in years. The air was thin and pure, the kind that makes you sleep deeper and dream clearer. I woke up early on the day they were supposed to fly, made coffee, and watched the sunrise from the porch. And at 9:47 a.m. my phone buzzed, then buzzed again. And again. I opened it briefly, just enough to glimpse chaos. Something's wrong with the booking. The airline says we're not scheduled today. Charlotte, please respond. This is serious. We're stuck at the gate. They won't let us on. I smiled. A small, satisfied, almost sad smile. Not because I wanted them to suffer, but because, for once, they were feeling what I had lived through for decades, forgotten, confused, powerless. By noon, Melissa was spamming the family chat with voice messages full of rage and accusations. Dad tried calling twice. Mom sent one short text. If you did this, we need to talk. And I powered off my phone. Instead, I took a hike. Photographed wildflowers. Sat beside a stream. Ate dinner by candlelight. I had never felt more alone, but also never more seen. Because for the first time I saw myself. Not as the helper. Not as the peacekeeper. Not as the family's background character. But as a woman worthy of respect. And when no one else would give it, I took it back. To every daughter who's ever been the afterthought in her own home. This story is yours. We don't owe anyone our silence, especially not the people who thrive on it. Drop a comment if you've ever been the one they forgot to invite. Let's create a space where we no longer tolerate being invisible. And if you've ever dreamed of getting your power back, subscribe. Because this isn't a revenge story, it's a redemption one. Saturday morning. Departure day. While my family was likely zipping up suitcases and double-checking passports, I was nestled into a rocking chair on the porch of my cabin, sipping fresh, brewed coffee as the sun crept up over the Rockies. I had no music playing, no TV, just the rustle of pine trees and a single thought: let the games begin. At exactly 9:47 a.m., my phone started vibrating. One notification after another. Family group chat: Dad, there's a problem with the airline. No record of our flight. Mom, what do you mean? I confirmed it with Charlotte weeks ago. Melissa, we've been waiting in line 45 minutes. This is insane. Derek, someone needs to call Charlotte. I watched the stream unfold with a detached calm. Like I was observing strangers, not blood relatives. Melissa tried calling. Twice, I silenced my phone. She followed up with a voice message, venom dripping through her voice. You did this on purpose, didn't you? Always so perfect. Always the quiet little martyr. Well, congrats. You've shown us who you really are. It was fascinating. Really. How quickly people go from dismissing you to begging for your help when the world tilts. By 11:00 a.m., the situation had imploded. The airline explained their tickets were for the following day, not Saturday. The cruise line showed a discrepancy in boarding names, which triggered an identity flag. Their hotel room wasn't available until the next day. And the credit card payment, still pending due to a verification hold. Everything was just slightly off, just enough to unravel the entire operation. Dad finally called. Straight to voicemail. Allison, he said. He always used my full name when he was angry. Something's seriously wrong with the cruise. We need you to call the agency ASAP. We're stuck at the airport. I powered off my phone and went for a hike. The air up there, clean, biting, untouched. Felt like an entirely different planet than the stale terminal air I knew they were breathing. I imagined them standing helplessly at the counter, Dad fuming, Melissa yelling, Mom tearing up, Derek looking like he wanted to disappear. And I kept walking. Later that evening, after dinner and a long bath, I turned my phone back on. The messages had evolved. Now it was bargaining. Derek, hey, if you see this, maybe we can just talk. No pressure, I just want to understand. Mom, sweetheart, please. If we hurt you, we didn't mean to. Call me. Melissa, you're a psycho, a narcissist. You need serious help. I hope this made you feel better, because you ruined everything. I stared at her message for a long time. The girl who once ruined my 10th birthday party by stealing my gift and lying about it. Who crashed my graduation dinner because her boyfriend dumped her. Who threw wine in my face at Derek's wedding and still got comforted while I was asked to not escalate things. And now, she was angry that the game didn't go her way. That the doormat had stood up. That someone had finally said enough. The next morning, I received a final text from Dad. When I find you, we are going to have a serious conversation about what you've done. Not a threat. Not quite. But the implication. That I should be afraid, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't. Because here's the thing about fear, it only holds power when you believe someone still has something to take from you. But I had nothing left to lose. They'd already taken my place at the table. My birthdays. My achievements, my dignity. All I had left was truth, and I was finally living in it. Later that day, I opened a bottle of wine, grilled a steak on the cabin's fire pit, and watched stars stretch across a sky unpolluted by city lights. It was the best meal I'd ever eaten. Not because of the food, but because I tasted freedom in every bite. The next morning brought more updates. My family had booked a hotel to wait it out. They tried rebooking the cruise, but with the new dates and botched paperwork, they'd missed the ship's departure. The cruise line refused a refund. Total losses $5,800. Melissa's Instagram posted a cryptic story that read, "Some people just wait for the perfect moment to show you who they are. Family can be poisoned too." She never mentioned my name. She didn't have to. The cousins started texting. Everything okay? Are you really not on the cruise? Heard something went down. I said nothing, because the truth wasn't just that I'd sabotaged a cruise. The truth was I had stopped playing the role I was cast in. The compliant one. The invisible one. The backup plan. The emotional sponge. I had left the stage. Let them rewrite whatever version of events made them feel better. Me? I was writing something else entirely. My own story. Have you ever shocked people simply by standing up for yourself? Tell me about it in the comments. And if this feels a little too familiar, hit that like button and subscribe. Because sometimes, healing looks a lot like walking away. Exactly 1 week after that infamous Sunday dinner, I stood outside my parents' house once again. Same driveway, same hydrangeas blooming by the porch. But something fundamental had shifted in me. I wasn't here to be accepted. I wasn't here to be loved. I was here to speak. When Mom opened the door, she looked like she hadn't slept. Her smile was small, unsure. "Charlotte, come in. They're all waiting." Of course they were. Melissa on the couch, arms crossed like a prosecutor in court. Derek sitting awkwardly in the corner. Dad in his recliner, posture stiff. The energy in the room. Volatile. "I didn't sit," Dad started. "Before we begin, I want to say, no." I cut him off, calm but firm. "You don't get to start this time." "I do." He bristled. But I didn't flinch. "Last week," I said, "you looked me in the face and told me I wasn't part of this family, that the cruise was for real family, and you all laughed." Melissa rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, are we seriously still doing this?" Mom hushed her, let her talk. "So I will," I continued. "For 34 years, I've smiled through every exclusion, every forgotten birthday, every joke made at my expense. I planned that cruise thinking it was finally a chance to belong. Instead, I was just the help." Dad frowned. "It wasn't meant like that." "It never is," I replied. "But that doesn't change the outcome, does it?" Derek shifted. "She's right." Melissa turned to him, shocked. "Excuse me?" Derek sighed. We laughed. We knew she wasn't invited. And none of us said anything. It was messed up. For a moment, the room went still. Mom whispered, "We're sorry, Charlotte." "No, you're not," I said. "You're sorry the cruise didn't happen. You're sorry it cost money. But you're not sorry for how you've treated me." "Not yet?" Melissa exploded. "This is classic Charlotte. Poor little forgotten sister. Always the martyr. You ruined our family vacation and now you want applause for being dramatic." I stared at her, heart pounding. But my voice was steady. "No. I want recognition. That I matter. That I'm not just the girl you call when you need spreadsheets, or bookings, or babysitting. I want to stop being the footnote in my own family." Melissa scoffed. "Oh please. You've always thought you were better than us, with your little job and your perfect GPA and your apartment." "That's projection?" I said. "I never thought I was better. I just stopped pretending I was less." That shut her up. Dad finally spoke. "We're willing to move past this, Charlotte. But you need to take responsibility too. What you did cost us thousands." I looked him dead in the eye. "You're right. And if you had treated me like a person instead of a tool, it wouldn't have happened." His face reddened. "Actions have consequences." "Yes," I nodded. And this was mine. For once, I was the one making the consequences. Silence. Then Derek, bless him, spoke again. "She's not wrong." Dad turned to him. "You're siding with her now." "I'm siding with reality," Derek said. "I've treated her like crap too. I text when I need help, then disappear. That's not a brother. That's a leech." I swallowed hard. His words landed softer than I expected, but they landed. Mom took a shaky breath. "I've thought a lot this week. About how I raised you all." I leaned on Charlotte because she seemed fine. She was independent. I didn't realize I was punishing her for it. "You were?" I said gently. "You rewarded neediness. You dismissed consistency." Mom nodded. "And I'm sorry." Melissa scoffed again. "So now she's the victim hero, and we're the villains." "No," I said. "You're people. People who made choices. And now I've made mine." I reached into my purse and pulled out a sheet of paper. "What's that?" Dad asked. "Boundaries," I said. "If you want a relationship with me moving forward, these are the expectations. Respect. Inclusion. No more guilt tripping. No more using me professionally. You don't get access to me unless you treat me like family." Dad's jaw clenched. "You're handing us a contract." "No," I said. "I'm handing you the terms of loving me. Because up until now, it's been one-sided. That ends today." I placed the list on the coffee table and turned to leave. Derek stood. "Wait," I paused. "Thank you," he said, "for finally saying what needed to be said." Melissa muttered something, but no one reacted. For once, her voice wasn't the loudest. I stepped outside, into the bright afternoon sun. Behind me, the door remained open. Maybe they'd follow. Maybe they wouldn't. But for the first time in my life, it didn't matter. Because I wasn't standing on their porch as a daughter begging for scraps. I was standing as a woman who knew her worth. Have you ever had to walk away from people who were supposed to love you unconditionally? Share your story in the comments. Let others know they're not alone. And if this story made you feel seen, hit like. Hit subscribe, because healing starts with telling the truth, even when your voice shakes. The first week after the confrontation. Silence. Not just from my parents, but from everyone. The family group chat stayed dormant. No updates. No half-hearted memes. Just quiet. And honestly, I was fine with that. I went back to work, threw myself into lesson plans, field trips, and grading. My classroom was my sanctuary, my students unaware of the family war I'd detonated just days before. But on the second Wednesday, Derek texted me. "Hey, just checking in. Hope you're okay." I stared at it for 10 minutes before replying. "I'm fine. Thanks." 3 dots appeared. "Can we grab coffee?" Just us. We met at a local bookstore cafe. Neutral ground. No family history soaked into the wallpaper. When he walked in, Derek looked different. Not physically, but emotionally, like someone who'd finally taken off a mask. "I've been thinking a lot," he said as we sat down. "About you. About how I've been." I stayed quiet. "I used to think you were just above it all. Like you didn't need us, like you didn't care." That hit me harder than I expected. He continued. "But I get it now. You cared. You just weren't seen." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Melissa's been spinning the whole cruise thing like you had some kind of breakdown." He added. I know better now. That wasn't a breakdown. That was the first time anyone in this family set a real boundary." I looked up. "Thank you for saying that." He nodded. "I want to be better. Not just say it, do it." We talked for nearly 2 hours. About childhood, expectations, how Dad always made Melissa the center of the universe. How Mom rewarded whoever needed her most. When we hugged goodbye, it felt genuine. Like the start of something new, not the patching of something broken. That Friday, I got a message from Mom. "I made your favorite lemon bars today. Thought of you. I miss you, sweetheart." No mention of the confrontation. No acknowledgement of her part in it. But I didn't expect a miracle. I replied simply, "Thank you. I hope you're doing okay too." It was a baby step. By week 3, I started hearing murmurs from extended family. A cousin reached out. "Your sister's been posting some cryptic stuff." Drama. I checked Melissa's Instagram. A black and white selfie captioned, "Some people will only support you until you stop playing your assigned role." I didn't respond. Let her tell whatever story she needed to. But then something unexpected happened. An email from Aunt Carla, Dad's older sister. "Charlotte, I saw Melissa's posts. I know something happened, and I won't pry, but I want you to know. I've seen how your parents treat you. I always thought you were the strongest of the 3. That doesn't mean you deserve to carry it alone. Love, Carla." I read it twice. Then cried. Because for the first time someone in my family saw me without me having to set myself on fire. By week 4, the silence from Dad finally broke. He called. I didn't answer. But the voicemail. "Charlotte, we need to talk. You've made your point, but if you want to be part of this family again, there's a way to do that. Call me." I played it 3 times. He still didn't get it. Being part of the family wasn't about me coming back. It was about them showing up. Still, I agreed to dinner the following Sunday. Mom had asked again, this time with a real softness in her voice. "Just dinner. Just to talk." I said yes, for me, not for them. That Sunday, I walked into the house on my terms. Mom looked hopeful. Dad looked cautious. Derek gave me a quiet nod. Melissa was hot of town, supposedly. We sat down over roast chicken and mashed potatoes. For once, no one filled the silence with small talk. Finally, Mom said, "Charlotte, we've been doing some thinking. About you. About everything." I raised an eyebrow. "I started therapy," she added, surprising me. "Just once a week. But it's helping. I see now how I used to think being strong meant needing less. I expected more from you because you made it easy." Dad spoke next. "I'm not great with words. Never have been. But your brother, he said something that stuck with me. That you weren't cold. You were just tired." I blinked. "That hit me hard," Dad said. "I always thought you didn't want to be part of things. But now I see, maybe we never really gave you the chance." It wasn't poetic. It wasn't sweeping, but it was something. After dinner, we sat in the living room. Mom pulled out an old photo album. one I hadn't seen in years. There were pictures of Melissa's theater plays, Derek's soccer games. But then toward the back, me. Science fair ribbons, my high school graduation, even one of me reading under a tree at age 10. We didn't display these, Mom said softly. But we kept them. I didn't say anything, because I didn't need to. The recognition had come. Not perfect, not full, but enough to start over. Before I left, Dad walked me to the door. He paused. We're planning another cruise. I laughed. Thanksgiving? He added. Everyone's invited. Properly invited, and we'd like your help planning it. Because I'm your daughter? I said. Or because I have perks? He smiled. Because we want your input, not just your discount. It was a small win. But for someone like me, it felt like a revolution. Have you ever had to teach your family how to treat you? Did they listen? Tell me your story in the comments. Someone out there needs to know they're not alone. And if this chapter hit a nerve, like, comment, subscribe, because sometimes the hardest part of healing is accepting that even the ones who hurt you might eventually change. The Sunday before Thanksgiving, I stood in my parents' kitchen helping Mom prepare dinner. It felt surreal. The light streaming through the window. The smell of garlic and rosemary. The sound of Dad carving ham in the next room. And me, still standing, still steady, but different. Because this time, I wasn't here to perform, I was here to be present. On my terms. As we laid out the dishes, I noticed something unusual about the dining room setup. I wasn't at the kids' end of the table. I wasn't shoved near the folding chair by the hallway. No. My place card was next to Dad's. The spot usually reserved for Melissa. A small gesture, but it screamed volumes. Everyone showed up. Derek, more relaxed than I'd ever seen him. Mom, humming while setting down the green beans. Even Melissa, late as always, but quieter, more watchful. Aunt Carla joined us too by my request. That alone had raised eyebrows, but Dad had agreed. A sign he was truly trying. Dinner was good, not just the food, but the conversation. We talked. Really talked. No subtle jabs, no offhand dismissals. Just human voices trying to connect. Midway through dessert, Melissa surprised everyone. She asked me about my job. Not sarcastically, not as a segue into her own stories. She actually wanted to know. So what's it like managing student trips now? She asked. I mean, I imagine it's a logistical nightmare. I smiled. It's kind of like planning a cruise, except everyone actually wants me there. A pause. Then, Melissa chuckled. You got us good with that one, she admitted. I mean, I hated you for it at first. But now, I get it. I blinked. You do? I've been thinking, she said. About how we treated you. About how we treated you? It wasn't right. I didn't rush to fill the silence. She added, I'm trying to be better. It's hard. But I'm trying. That was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever get from her. And for now, it was enough. Later, in the kitchen, she asked, so, how did you pull it off? The cruise thing? I smirked. Trade secret. She laughed. Well, respect. You made your point. Loud and clear. As I packed leftovers, Mom hugged me. I'm glad you're here, she whispered. Not just in the house, but here? With us. I whispered back. I'm glad too. But in my heart, I knew. This only happened because I stopped being the version of myself they expected. I stopped smiling when it hurt. I stopped fixing what I didn't break. I stopped making myself small so others could feel big. And in doing so, I made space for them to meet me where I truly was, not the good girl, not the helper, not the emotional dumpster, just Charlotte. Whole, honest. Enough. If you've ever had to burn down a roll just to breathe again, tell me. Leave a comment. And if you're still learning to say, no more, hit like, hit subscribe, because your peace matters. Even if you have to fight for it. 6 months after the cruise that never was, things weren't perfect. But they were different. I had moved into a new apartment across town. Bright windows, creaky floors, and a tiny balcony where I kept a row of herbs and a stubborn lemon tree. Derek came over one weekend to help assemble shelves. He brought coffee, stayed for hours, and didn't ask for anything in return. He just wanted to be there. Mom and I had started doing weekly coffee dates. Just the two of us. At first, we avoided the hard stuff. But eventually, we started talking. About childhood, about her regrets, about her therapist's revelations, about how she'd spent years overcompensating for Melissa's chaos while assuming my quiet meant I was okay. I wasn't okay, I told her gently one afternoon. I know, she said, eyes wet. And I'm so sorry. It wasn't magic. But it was real. Dad was the slowest to shift. He still bristled when boundaries came up. Still got quiet when accountability entered the room. But he showed up. He helped me move. Took apart furniture without complaint. And before he left that day, he patted my shoulder and said, "You've done well for yourself." I should have said that more often. I nodded. Yeah, you should have. But I didn't say it with bitterness. Just truth. As for Melissa, she was Melissa. We had coffee once. She didn't apologize, but she didn't deflect either. You've changed, she said. So have you? I replied. Her smirk was softer this time. Still think you went full ninja on us. I didn't sabotage you, I said calmly. I chose me. And maybe for the first time, she understood. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. But we didn't fight either. And for us, that was progress. At family dinners now, I get a real seat at the table. My voice is heard. My stories aren't just cute interruptions. My presence isn't taken for granted. Not because I became louder, but because I became clearer, and when people couldn't meet me there, I stopped waiting. Have you ever felt change happening? Not all at once, but inch by inch. Tell me about it, drop a comment below. And if you're somewhere between the breakdown and the breakthrough, subscribe. Because healing isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's just showing up differently. Looking back, the cruise didn't break my family. It revealed it. It peeled away the layers of politeness and performance, and showed us the raw truth underneath. Love without respect is just manipulation dressed up in family photos. For years, I believed I had to earn my place. I baked the pies. I remembered birthdays. I showed up early, stayed late, smiled when I wanted to scream. All for what? A seat at a table where no one saw me. Not anymore. Because here's what I've learned: real family isn't defined by blood, obligation, or who shares your last name. Real family is who shows up, who listens, who grows. And sometimes, you have to teach even the people who raised you how to love you right. You have to stop shrinking. Stop apologizing. Stop carrying more than your share because you're afraid of being seen as too much. And when they mock you, guilt you, try to paint you as the problem, you keep standing. Because boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. And the right people will knock. Today, I'm not begging for love. I'm building relationships with people who meet me where I am, not where it's convenient for them. And that includes my family, on my terms. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own home, I see you. You're not dramatic. You're not broken. You're not ungrateful. You're just finally learning that love without dignity isn't love at all. If this story echoed something in you, drop a comment. Let's be seen together. And if you're ready to stop apologizing for taking up space, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs it, because you deserve to be chosen. Not for what you do, but for who you are.